I'm Dr. Michele Fiala of Ohio University. Thank you for joining me today while I discuss and perform the 2016 Ohio All-State excerpts for oboe. These are selected out of the Voxman Selected Studies for oboe. The first one is on page 5 by Mueller, and it is in the key of A minor. The tempo is suggested to be moderato assai, quite moderate, and then the editor also suggests in 4. You could initially count it with the 8th note getting the beat and eventually feel it in a slow 2. I suggest a tempo of maybe somewhere around 96 to 100 for your 8th note tempo. You could count this aloud to get yourself ready to perform this excerpt and make sure that you understand the rhythms. At OU, we use the system in which we say one and whenever there are 2 notes within a beat, and if you're counting the 8th note as the beat, there would be 2 16th notes in each beat. We use one ianda for 4 notes within a beat, and if you are counting the 8th note as the beat, those would be 32nd notes. For instance, the first 3 measures of this would sound like this if you were counting aloud. 1 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 4 and 1. I suggest that you continue counting this excerpt aloud before you perform it on the oboe and make sure that you understand all of the rhythms. Then you could start it at a slower tempo. You could even start counting at a slower tempo too to make sure that you can get all of the rhythms correct. You'll notice that there is something strange in the second to last line. The composer or editor has rebeamed the 16th notes so that they look like they are 2 voices, a low voice and a high voice. This is an example of someone trying to rebeam things musically, but it is not useful to look at. It's difficult to see and to understand. You could mentally rebeam those so that there are 2 16th notes in each beat if you're counting the 8th note as the beat, or 4 16th notes in each beat if you count this in a very slow 2 with the quarter note at 48 to 50. A couple of fingering things that may be difficult. In the second to last line, you have a D sharp to an E natural. So for the D sharp, I suggest the standard fingering, half hole 2, 3, low B key 2 and 3. And then you would need to go to the right side, E natural, because you've been using your left pinky on the D sharp. So when you go to the E natural, you would want to put on your thumb octave, keep down your half hole 2 and 3 on your left hand, keep down 2 and 3 on your right hand, but add your right hand A flat key and your right hand E flat key. Down below where you have an E natural in the last line, I suggest the standard left hand E natural fingering because it's going to be followed by a D. So this would be almost exactly the same. Thumb octave, half hole 2, 3. This time you grab your left hand A flat and E flat, as well as 2 and 3 on your right hand. That way you can go easily to the D that follows it, and the D uses that right pinky, so you would not want to have your right pinky in use on the E natural. As always, I suggest practicing with a drone and checking that you are very in tune before you begin the piece. So we could put on an A drone and check some of the intervals before I practice this piece. As we've discussed before in my oboe lessons and in other help videos, I think that tuning the octaves, the 4th note of the scale and the 5th note of the scale is very useful. In this case of A minor, the 4th note of the scale would be D and the 5th note would be E. So I will play A's, D's, and E's. continue this throughout your range, including the high D and high E. Please see my Oboe lessons if you want a further demonstration of how to breathe well when you're getting ready to perform these etudes and how to support well when you're getting ready to perform them. Now I will perform this, and you may notice that I've added some extra dynamic contrast to this. There is some more dynamic contrast in the second half than there is in the first half, but I don't really believe that the composer wanted you to play piano entirely from the beginning to the first repeat sign. I think that he more meant the context of piano, as in never getting too loud during that opening section and saving your volume for later when it gets very exciting. But I think you could shape up with the phrase and down with the phrase. If you look for the musical sentences and the natural resolution points, you can also often find an arch shape where you go up a bit in the middle of the phrase and come back down. It's also simple to start with maybe just following the contour of the music. Try even generally getting louder when it goes up and getting softer when it goes down if you're not sure yet what you want to do with a phrase. That can be a good jumping off point, and then you can figure out what you want to do from there. I will now perform this etude for you. I just remembered that I forgot to give you the fingering for the high F in the second to last line. It's very similar to the fingering for the high E in the last line. You use thumb octave, halfle, 2, and the left hand A flat and E flat keys, as well as 2 and 3 on your right hand. The only difference between that and the E is the fourth finger, ring finger of your left hand. Thank you for joining me for part 1, and please join me for part 2, in which I play and teach the fast etude.